Hello, I'm Shaggy, the opinionated hippie, and today I'm gonna talk about the top 10 tracks on the You Can't Do That on Stage Anymore series. I just finished reviewing all of the Frank releases released while he was alive. Shortly, soon, I'm gonna start doing the ones that were released after he passed. But in the meanwhile, these are the top 10 songs on the You Can't Do That on Stage Anymore series. So back in the late 80s, early 90s, right before he passed, Frank released 6 sets, 2 discs each, of what was called You Can't Do That on Stage Anymore. It was mostly live tracks. There was a couple studio things slipped in there. Some of it was fantastic. Some of it was kind of disappointing. And ultimately, I think, was not as revelatory and mind-blowing as it should have been, but they are great releases, and I, as a Zappa fan, are really, really happy that they were released. And in many ways, each of the 6 entries in the series kind of opened the doors to other things to investigate in the Frank canon. But these are the 10 tracks that, at least for now, in January 2021, are what should have been more of in this set, in the 12 discs, or are just my personal favorites. But anyways, yeah, so let's go through them. Number 10, 13 off You Can't Do That on Stage Anymore, Volume 6. I'm going to complain right away and say I wish Frank had released the entire song that this was from, A Pound for a Bound on the Bus, over the Halloween 78 shows. I assume that hopefully this year, this track will no longer kind of be that important because they're going to release all the shows from the Halloween 78 run. But this is 6+ minutes of El Shankar soloing on the violin and Frank kind of following up. Not really soloing as much as just kind of fooling around and experimenting. Amazing solos. The rhythm section, Vinnie Colaiuta. There were 2 bass players for these shows, O'Hearn and Barrow. They are fantastic throughout all of this. But this is just 6+ minutes of instrumental soloing, and it's just really good. The band is fantastic. Obviously, I would have preferred, the entire Pound for a Brown with Mars' solo before that and the song and all that stuff. But this is pretty good, and I like when Frank chose to release just jams. Like the Pound for a Brown solos on Volume 4 are really good, and other things like that. The Cleveland solos, okay, but kind of good. So, anyways, that's what this is. It's part of a Pound for a Brown solos. Pretty good. Number 9, Here Lies Love off Volume 5. The first disc of Volume 5 was a whole bunch of Mother stuff, a lot of it frustratingly edited. And this is really the shortest. It's a little 2:45 about. It's a cover of an R&B song sung by Lowell George. It's straightforward. It's simple. It's heartfelt. It's kind of beautiful. It's just a really neat little pop song, R&B pop song. And you won't find it anywhere else in the canon. Lowell George is very, very underrepresented, only because he was really only there for a short tour. But this is just an all-around beautiful track. And it's the 3rd song on Volume 5. And so knowing it's so early in that disc, I like to put it on because it's just such a great listen. So Here Lies Love is number 9. Number 8, Charlina off Volume 3. This is with Dweezil Zappa playing the guitar solo. So Dweezil solos, and then Frank solos, and then they both solo and go at it. It's really good. The playing is phenomenal. Dweezil's solo is pretty good. I think he was 16 when this was recorded, so he was pretty young, but pretty impressive. This version of Charlina highlights the vocal strengths of the 84 band, which were really their one strength. It's kind of it's like a little more reggae-fied version, as Frank would do often in the 80s. But it's a great song, great performance, and the solos are what make this worth it. Frank had a lot of really good Charlina solos in 82 and 84, and some in 88. But this one is just phenomenal, and Dweezil contributes to that. Number 7, 2 songs. I'm going to cheat because they're both from an album whose name I'm not going to say. But Brown Moses Into the Evil Prince. Pretty bad album. But the Brown Moses, on that album was pretty much a completely formed song, a bunch of other stuff that was more like recycled material. It's the 84 band doing this. It sounds really good. That goes into the Evil Prince, which has become its own song. On the album, it is the where the guitar solo would go in The Torture Never Stops. Napoleon Murphy Brock just sings it kind of over a really kind of just, monotone, not monotone, but just kind of a flat musical background. Like it's his vocals are the intention. Frank has completely rearranged it for the 84 band. It's very theatrical and like has these swooshes and very keyboard heavy, an amazing guitar solo. But the vocal, it really highlights the vocal strengths of the 84 band. And so anything you can do to highlight the 84 band is a plus in my book. And the guitar solo is so good. And the bass playing, Tunis's bass playing, especially in Brown Moses, is so catchy. But that's my number 7. And it's a good track. More really, really good 84 stuff would have been nice, though not much of it exists. So that's why I appreciate this one. Number 6, King Kong on Volume 3. This is Frank doing an editing frenzy. Starts off with an 82 King Kong, which they did in that slow reggae version, which was pretty sweet. There's an Ed Mann percussion solo, which is a lot of space. It's kind of chill. It's very un-Zappa-esque in its laziness, kind of. Like Ed Mann sounds great, but it's still one of his more quieter, calmer moments. There is a blistering Ian Underwood saxophone solo from 71, a Frank solo from 71 that's a very like chord heavy, start and stop, kind of slowly build it type thing. Martin solos back to 82 for the 82 King Kong, finishing off with a little like kind of improv going and Frank conducting the band, and you get a Don't Eat the Yellow Snow reference as it was played on Volume 1, so there's conceptual continuity there, finishing with a Frank guitar solo from 82. So 2 guitar solos, some instrumental keyboard craziness, an Underwood sax solo, a Mann solo. Yes, it's edited together from 71 and 82. Yes, the edits are really obvious as the bands sound nothing alike. But if Frank wanted to do this more often, like maybe on every release, do a Pound for a Brown from different years, maybe do a Little House I Used to Live in from different years, as the 78 band did some really cool things with that. That would have been neat had he kind of continued this idea of meshing years in like a long 24-minute song. But this one is great. It's one of the highlights of Volume 3. That was number 6. Number 5, Pygmy Twilight. Into Room Service. Yes, I'm cheating again. From Volume 2. The Pygmy Twilight on here is much slower and heavier and slightly hard rock metal, just kind of straightforward. Amazing guitar solo. Like I said, it's much slower than the Roxy version. Completely different song, really. It's, same lyrics and all, but it just has a completely different vibe. That goes into Room Service, which had written musical material, and then an improv section in which Frank would call room service, and Napoleon Murphy Brock would be like the hotel operator or desk manager from wherever city they were in, and they would improv a routine. This is definitely one of the better ones from the tour. And it's really funny, and it's just, even though it is them, talking a lot, it's entertaining. And then that briefly goes back into Pygmy Twilight. But the guitar solo on this, and the interplay between him and Duke and Thompson in particular, Chester Thompson on drums, fantastic. Like, just great. Yeah. So number 5. Number 4, The Black Page number 2 off Volume 5. This is a beast of a song. I love the Black 2 versions from 81 and 82. But the solo section is the Them or Us from the album Them or Us. The vamp is this dun, right? It's just this like dun, this 2-note down hard dunna, and a lot of space that Frank could like solo in until it returned to that dunna. And then this has a loop that I think Frank starts, or maybe I'm probably Frank starts it, not Vi, but there's loops involved, and then this riff gets picked up, and then it just gets faster, and there's like noise all over the place, and it's like the closest thing to chaos in a solo I think Frank has ever created. Like it is chaos, but it's controlled chaos the entire time, and it goes on for a really, really long time. I took notes on this. It is a really long solo. It's like 7+ minutes of just like aggression, in your face. Frank at his like fiercest. And you know, a lot of Black Pages have been released. There's a lot of versions. There's now more versions on Halloween '81. But this performance is so incredible that you have to check it out. Frank even took a part of this solo and released it on the guitar album. I think don't know the name of the song. I'll put it down there. But yeah, it's the second song on the first disc is from this same exact solo, this Black Page solo. I'm going to look it up right now so I can tell you the name of that solo, because it's interesting to see how just the short 2.5-minute version of it fits neatly in this longer, much longer in it. Which one is it is the name of the solo. 3 minutes of this have been pulled out and put in on that album, but this is the full 7-minute beast. That's number 4. Number 3, Smell My Beard and the Booger Man from Volume 4. I am a huge 74 fan. During that tour, the band would play Montana, and then they'd play the hook, which is this dun 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 ba ba dun 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 ba ba. Frank put that in front of the Cleveland solos, also on Volume 4, oddly enough, though it actually belongs in front of this. So they would play Montana, they'd do the hook, and then George Duke would improvise, have a solo on the keyboards. And as the tour progressed from like 73 on to 74, that improvised solo started to include lyrics where he would talk about like, you know, things that were happening on the road, talk about groupies, talk about hanging out in the motels, talk about, they called the groupies Booger Bears. He would improvise these stories. Frank would interject. Napoleon would interact with him. Sometimes it would just be George. Sometimes there'd be a full jam. Smell My Beard has a full jam. That full jam is the Booger Man, which is straight up funk. It is like these two songs. I think it's about 6 minutes total. After this, they would go into Dupree's Paradise Proper, which would be another 15-20 minutes of instrumental, just magnificent. There is no Montana. There is no Dupree's Paradise Proper. It is just the George Duke section with the funk jam. Fantastic. Even out of context, it is so awesome that Frank releases, because this really is just a really special performance, and elevates this disc. Number 2, also from 74, but this is from You Can't Do That on Stage Volume 2, Montana, Whipping Post, quotate, parentheses, Whipping Post. So somebody yells, play Whipping Post, during the middle of a sort of post-dog meet, something called Building a Girl, where the band, Frank would conduct the band and they'd improvise these things. And then right as that ends, somebody yells, Whipping Post! And then Frank, you know, interacts with him, and then they start Montana, and Ruth messes up. She for some reason, it's just too fast for her, is what she says. So then Frank lowers it slightly, but it's still too fast for her. So then Frank starts to count it off again, only he counts it off much, much slower. Like it is a really slow Montana. In fact, it's a ballad at this tempo, as he says. They joke around and do some secret word usage with, you know, change the words to revolve around Whipping Post, and then the solo is just great. It's a great solo. It kind of falls apart at the end and then builds back up, and the interplay between Chester Thompson on drums and Frank is fantastic. It is one of the it is obviously the second highlight of the entire thing, one of the greatest things in Frank's entire oeuvre. I don't think that's a word. That's not how you pronounce it. But phenomenal, just amazing performance. And then number 1, the greatest single track on all 6 volumes, all 12 discs, came out on the very first one, on the second disc, The Torture Never Stops. 8-minute guitar solo, the 78 Torture Band, this is with Bosio and O'Hearn, just bringing the thunder, just this rumbling, rhythm section. This solo just builds and builds and builds. And there were moments when it seems like Frank's about to call it, when it just like, you can feel the whole band like, no, we're going to keep going. Like they're just pulling themselves forward. And then it just gets this like chugging momentum like a train. And then when it feels like it's going to slow down again, they just push harder. And then it is amazing. It is like volcanic and like energy and just, the guitar solo is phenomenal. Like, yes, we have a whole bunch of these versions of Torture on Halloween 77. We need this one still. Yes, we have another one on Hammersmith Odeon. This one is also even better than all those. Rat Tamago on Shake Your Booty is a Torture solo. But we need this one also because this is possibly the best of all those. And my all-time favorite track on this stage volume. Like every time I hear this solo, I know like I'm going to hear greatness. And then I'm always surprised at how long they can keep this momentum going in this train. Just this like energy pounding forward. So yeah, that's my favorite track on the stage series. So those are my 10 favorite songs on this. If you are familiar with these, or you check them out, or you listen to these songs and hate them, or anything you want to comment about this, let me know. I'd like to know what your 10 favorite tracks are, because I really, when I hear other people really, really like something, I want to check it out and figure out what I am missing, because I assume I am missing something. But anyways, that's it. I highly recommend the stage series. 1 and 2 are the best. Start there. It'll open the doors to many, many other wonderful Frank experiences, man. So yeah, share the music, spread the love, all that stuff. Be safe, you guys. Thank you for watching. Subscribe and all that stuff. Peace.